Thanks, Heath. Thanks, worship team. Many times when, you've been a part of church your whole life, but you don't really realize, unless you're here early, how much time and effort goes into this from people that were here leading worship, people in the back. There's a lot of time. I was here this morning. There were already people here before 7 o'clock getting prepared for this. I think they need a round of applause as well. And I say that to say, as Pastor Pete asked me to kick off this power series, and he said, I'm going to title it, The Power of a Life Lived on Purpose. So when that happens, and many of you don't know this, I don't assume that you do, as I had a text message ministry, still do, most of it's posted on social media now, is I would send out a text every day. I've been doing that for about 14 years now. And that is where the live on purpose comes from. But when he asked me to do that, what happens with that is this. Because I've been honored to do this many times, not just in a church setting, but in basketball rooms and business and things like that, is you do have to talk about examples of yourself. So I ask for grace in that. This makes me uncomfortable in the fact that some of the stories I will have to tell are personal, one, but I don't want that in any way, shape, or form to bring honor and glory to myself or my family. It's the fact that Pastor Pete asked me to share a sermon about the power of a life lived on purpose, and he wanted me to say it from my perspective. So I asked you that to walk through this message with me from that perspective. And as I always come to speak, whether it's in at church or, like I said, in front of a sports team, I always try to prepare myself to make sure that I'm ready, one, that I'm not getting sped up, two. And I've learned that many years ago. I worked just a few blocks down the street here, and at that time I was a part of the Good News Jail and Prison Ministry. It made a huge impact on my life. I went into the prison cells here at the detention center on Borax Drive and was honored to go in there. Sometimes it was a sermon, devotional. Sometimes it was praise and worship. Keith Buckman that was here used to go with me, and we really just tried to pour into the inmates. And I think it was a Wednesday night, the board was going to meet at the First Baptist Church just down the street here, and we met in the smallest room I've ever had a boardroom meet in. It was one table. I sat on the very end. And before I went there, I raced down to Rookies. Anybody here had the Arabian salad at Rookies? Anybody? Okay. Lots of pepper. I go in, scarf down the Arabian salad, rush down the street, go straight into the room, sit at the end of the table, give this 30, 40-minute presentation about what I felt like the ministry had done for me, what I was trying to do for it, what we could do better. We had this long, and I did mostly all the talking. I had 10 sets of eyes looking right direct at me in this very, very small space. I got up. They said, all right, thank you. I left, went to the fast fuel. I live out on 60. And I got out, got about to put the gas in my car, and Keith Buckman pulls up on the other side. And he puts the nozzle in his, and he turns around, and he gets ready to talk to me, and I start talking to him. He says, "Get back! Look at your teeth." I had Arabian salad pepper from here all the way over to here, caked all in my teeth. And I had thought I had done this incredible presentation, and the reason why they were really looking at me like this and really locked in is because I wasn't prepared. So I've checked my teeth. Hopefully there's nothing in my teeth today. But we always have to be ready and prepared when we get in front of people. I spent a couple days this week fishing in South Alabama out on a ranch. It was kind of just a quiet time for me to be out, away. And what do you do when you're out away trying to get alone? You talk to ChatGPT. So what I did was, I was just thinking about the beauty of this thousands of acres that I sat on, of this ranch, and the beauty of the cows and just the scenery of God and the clouds. And I was just like, wow, I'm just blessed to be alive, man, and to breathe. So I said to ChatGPT, I said, it's daily a miracle for me to even be breathing. Can you tell me about that? And I want you to listen to what ChatGPT said back. Every single morning, without an alarm, without a reminder, without your permission, your heart starts beating and beating and beating. Over 100,000 times a day, you haven't told it once to keep going. It keeps going. You inhale oxygen you didn't create. Your lungs exchange it for carbon dioxide you didn't plan to release. And your bloodstream, guided by divine design, delivers it exactly where it needs to be. You've got 37 trillion cells, each one a microscopic city, working, producing, protecting, repairing, even while you sleep. Your eyes seeing light, color, motion, depth. Your ears decoding vibrations into voices, music, and meaning. Your skin feeling heat, cold, comfort, pain, all the same. And here is what wrecks me. Science cannot describe the process, but only God can explain your purpose. You're not just functioning. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. You're not just alive, you're alive on purpose. You're not just a machine, you're a walking miracle. And in the end, it's this. And I want you to think about this. If God does that much just to keep us breathing, just that, what I just read, what do you think he wants to do through your life if you lived it on purpose? Well, I will tell you. In Ephesians 2, verse 10, as you see here, it says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand so that we would walk in them." Some interpretations say, "For we are his masterpiece." He sees us as his masterpiece. He knew what we would be doing beforehand. He knew what we'd be doing today. He knew that before he even created you. And you can choose to walk in that. That is your choice. But as we do that, and as we see that, that's when you live on purpose for God. You live with power. You live with passion. And you live, if you choose to, in an eternal impact. Eternal impact if you live on purpose for Christ. Your impact will not be eternal if it's not with Jesus. It doesn't work that way. The only way you get eternal impact is walking through your purpose in Jesus. And I will tell you what that looks like as we baptized people last week. That is the eternal impact that was made. I was sitting right over here last week. Amy had to be at Addison's dance, and the first thing Mr. Robert here did for me is right here. Now, that is passion. That is eternal impact right there. That is somebody saying, "Man, this is awesome." Where you at, Robert? I'm not ashamed of this. You know Robert from the sidewalk. That's where you know Robert from. Right up front, right over there. And it's because of the work of Christ in this church is the reason why that is an eternal impact. And he went from there to straight back to this. And he told me, "Make sure you tell Amy about me." And he wanted to take a picture to send to you. I drove by here yesterday to check on Robert. You know what Robert said to me? He didn't say, "How you doing?" He said, "Where's Amy?" Now, Amy's going to kill me for pointing that out. I did it the first service, and now she's here this service. But I say all that to say, if you want an eternal impact, you got to be intentional about investing in the lives of others. This church is. That's why there was over 40 people baptized last Sunday right here. If you want an eternal impact, you have to be intentional. God didn't create you by chance. He created you by choice. Not by chance, but by choice. So don't live casually. Live intentionally. You can't just get up and wander in good directions. You discipline and you prioritize yourself in good directions. Andy Stanley says that all the time. And it's so true. If you don't have a plan and a purpose about when you wake up to ask God what He wants to do in your life, it doesn't work the other way around. You can't just try to fit Him in. I say that because some 20 years ago, I can still see to this day, my college roommate wrote a book called The Backward Life. I ordered a box of the books. It came in. When it came in, the receptionist had to open up everything that comes into the office by protocol. When she did, she opened up the box and she looked at the book and started thumbing through it. And I told her, you read that book, I'll buy it for you, but you just got to tell me what it says inside of it. And she said, I'll take you up on that. Now, that was 20 years ago. From that, it led to last Sunday, this. This is her daughter. This is her. This is her father. And in the very back corner with the white hair is her mother. They were never in church until she read that book. And then she started going to our church at that time at Seabury First Baptist just down the highway. Now that's the uncomfortable part I told you about in the beginning. None of that is about me. All of that is about Jesus. Because that doesn't happen by being casual and not being intentional. Those things don't happen. They only happen because you're willing to invest and open up to allow Jesus in. You have no power in that. You just have to be a servant and surrender to His power. And through that, this is what takes place. Generationally, things are impacted. And we often talk about, in my line of work, being a financial advisor, people want to leave a legacy. I can promise you on my life, after 28 years, a legacy is not left. It's not. A legacy is invested in others. It's given to others, given of yourself, of what you can see. A legacy that's left, I can promise you, so many times is blown right through. If you want to have something that is eternal, you invest it in the souls of people, not just the lives of people. And the only thing that will get in a person's soul is Jesus. We need we need to have an urgency and excitement to align ourselves with God's power. If we don't have a sense of urgency about what we do, it normally doesn't work out real well. You know, in my past of sports, people really, really, really stake a lot in how people look. Physically, how they look, what they do, you know, their power, a lot of times their passion. They invest a lot in that. And I see Coach Troutman over here, and as he well knows from being very successful with our softball program, it's really about consistency. What is your consistency to be able to show up every day, wake up every day and say, I'm ready, man. I'm ready, God. What do you want from me today? It's not the fact that you can be the most passionate, speak the best, all those things. It's about, are you going to consistently wake up and be grateful and say, God, I know I'm a walking miracle, that I even exist on this earth and don't just get blown away is an absolute miracle. So I'm asking you what you want me to do today. Now that's all well and good for one day, but can you do it for 2? Can you do it for 3? Can you do it for 4? Can you consistently ask God every single day, what do you want me to do today? That's where the power is. It doesn't come in sporadically saying, I'm in trouble, I need you. That's fine. We've all been there. But if you want to see spiritual power in your life, you have to every day. Every day before your feet even hit the ground. You got to open your eyes and say, good, I woke up. That's a start. And you're a walking miracle from that point forward each and every day. 1 Corinthians 4:20 says, for the kingdom of God is not a matter of talk, but of power. Some interpretations say it's not of mere words, but of the power of God. When we do that and we consistently walk in that, God opens our eyes to what he wants us to do. I told in the first service about I was on a mission trip with the Sanford basketball team. We're in the Dominican Republic, so don't feel real sorry for us, and we're at a resort. We left the resort to go on the mission, and we came back to the nice resort. But I was about to speak to the team like I often do, and I was told what they wanted me to speak on, so that's what I was going to do. So it was going to be about a motivational, about being consistent, about hard work, dedication, all the things about sports. Right before I walked into the room, one of the assistant coaches, very leader in his church, walked up to me and just said, literally, I was about to walk around the corner. He stopped me. He said, there's somebody in that room that needs to hear the gospel today, now. So before you're done with this, I've known you long enough, I need you to put it on them. End of story. I said, okay. He walked in, and I was like, well, that kind of changes everything. I walked in, said what I normally say to teams in some variation, and at the very end, I started to preach the gospel. And to my left, this guy that was going to be at Sanford for 1 year started to weep. Late 60s. He was just there for a brief period of time. And I knew that's exactly what God wanted me to do, and he had sent somebody else just to tell me to do it. So in life, a lot of times, we see that. We don't know if we're going to be the one speaking or the one telling somebody else, prompting somebody else to do something that I would have never done in that setting. That guy, some months later, from a foreign country, sent me a message and said, I was the guy, man. That day, I was the guy. I was the guy that you were supposed to bring the gospel to that very day. So I say that to say, again, it wasn't about me. It was about somebody else being prompted to tell me, because they knew what the atmosphere I was going into. That guy eventually now has moved back to this country. He's a former NBA basketball player. He's a client of mine. He's been to Henderson. We developed a relationship. I did not know him 2 days before that. I'd known him for 2 days. Sometimes God puts us in people's lives that we don't understand. What are we called to do? We're called to answer the call. That's what we're called to do. We're called to surrender. That brings me to my last point. You don't get bored with the basics. I tell teams that all the time. You want to be really good? Don't get bored with the basics. They asked Archie Manning, or I asked Archie Manning one time. I had the honor of meeting him. I said, what separates your children from others? He said, 100%. If anybody ever tells you anything different, they didn't hear it from me. He said they never, ever, ever got bored with the basics. That can be used for all of us in anything that we do. It's back to the consistency component. But the number one thing you have to do, you have to surrender. Every day. Biblically, surrender every day. It's not that I surrendered then I was baptized. It was I got to surrender every day. Then I got to wake up again the next day and surrender that day to you as my Lord and Savior. You have to spend time in silence. You know, I hear this all the time when I talk to people. They say, you know, that's really hard. I don't like to do that. I don't like to be alone and think. And, you know, that's weird. Well, I don't know. Jesus did it a lot. So I think it's probably a pretty good idea that we do it as much as we can. And in today's world, you know, it's really, really more difficult because of iPhones, iPads. Pascal said in the 1600s this, a quote that's mentioned many times. He said, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. He said that in the 1600s. He didn't have 8 TVs in his house. Didn't have an iPhone, an iPad, all the things that we have now. And he was saying that then. And it's so, so true today. And I say to you, as we spend time in silence, an illustration, and this is a disclaimer. My parents are sitting here. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. This is no way, shape, or form demeaning my parents. I would never do that. But I will say something that I found is funny that God spoke to me just last week as Addison was in dance. They were racing. My family was racing to get there to watch her in her big performance. And, you know, as you come from the light into the dark to watch a performance, these big theaters, I mean, you can't hardly see. You know, when you step in there, you're like, what is going on here? Well, I'm trying to lead my brother and my mom and dad to these 3 seats. And they've come out of the light, racing to hurry up and get there. I mean, Addison's about to go into her big performance with 50 or 60 young ladies up on the stage, and they're racing to get there to see this big performance. Light to dark, and they can't see anything. My mom is trying to sit down. She's up on the side of the chair. I'm trying to negotiate that. My brother, he's old. Y'all can tell him this. He's a lot older than me, but still, he's like stepping like this. He's like looking. I look over to my left. My dad is leaning back. There's not even a chair there. So I grab my dad's coat. As I grab my dad's coat, I'm like, there's not a chair there. He's like, oh, my mom's still sitting up on the handrail. I'm like, you have to scoot over. And again, I've been there. But I'm trying to manage all this. I get them seated. And again, my much older brother, he comes walking in like this. There's like this much room there. There's 2 seats here. My brother's going. There's no handrail anywhere. He's going. He's reaching up here trying to get. He has no idea the seat's right here. And I say all that to say this. If they would have been standing there, slow, adjusted, calm, in some silence before they entered into that auditorium, they would have seen the seats. And as I drove back to my house, God, knowing I was preparing for this message, said, we're all kind of like that. We're like that when you come into my presence. You don't slow down. You just slow down. And he said, if you slow down, what you were telling your family, you can always see your daughter on stage, and you have no problem seeing her out of 60 people. Out of 60 people up there dancing, I can always spot her every time. God said, you know what? I can always spot you too. Every time. No matter what's going on in your life, God sees you. If you're here today and you don't think God sees you, you're wrong. He sees you in the chaos of your life. He knows your very name. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. He sees you every day for what you are and who you will be. And I am thankful for that. I'm thankful when God speaks to me. I'm thankful just that I can even recognize that He is speaking to me. I consider it an honor when I do feel it, because many times I don't. I don't. I'm just honored when I finally do. And I will leave you with this. The power of God and the source of that is Jesus and Jesus alone. There's no sense of power that is eternal outside of Jesus. It just doesn't work any other way. So you can try to fill that source, that power source, with something else. I will tell you, it will never, ever, ever work. So the power of living on purpose and being intentional about your life is and will be always about Jesus and Him alone. Dear God, we just thank you. We thank you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for the honor, the absolute honor it is to study you. The honor that it is to read your word. The honor that it is when we know that you've spoke through us in some way, shape, or form in our lives. May we always remember that a legacy is invested in others. We thank you for that. We thank you for you being the power source for all of us in all the ways of our life. May we never, ever forget that. In your name we do pray.